everything, so nothing would freeze, you know? We put antifreeze in all the lines and everything. And that's as far as we got with it.
But by Mr. Sweet's account, the building was severed from the utility lines,
Right.
so there's no heat, power,
Well,
plumbing?
Exactly.
Is that correct? Okay. Just
Yeah,
for
I don't-
clarification.
Did you go to school there, Taylor?
I did, yes. I was the last graduating class of 2008, so I was the last freshman class to enter the annex.
All right, well, when they took off the building that joined the two schools, which is technically the annex,
Okay?
that was the auxiliary gym, some people called it the girls' gym, the art room, the nurses' room, the music room, and the heating. That was all severed from it. So, and the water.
And the gym.
Right, the auxiliary
The
gym,
whole- That
gone.
was all new 1970,
Right,
and that all got torn down.
yeah. I spent 7 years there.
I know, you stayed back to do
Yeah. I was in the high school band for 7 years. No, back when I was there, it was 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, and then the high school.
Thank you, Mr. Collins. I appreciate you.
Chris Barber, Swar Rock Road. Has anybody, since it was returned to the town after the snafu with the first fire, has anybody with money approached the town looking with interest into that site?
Not that I know of. I think I could ask the same question of the people that are here. Kathy, has anybody approached the town when you were in office to say, I'd like to buy it?
We did have one company approach us to turn it into condos, but they were working on another project up in Rosedale and another one in Massachusetts. And they
We had to give them the building, you know, give them everything free. And when they had their own cost people, they know how things cost, and they did the math, and it just wasn't worth it for them to redo that building, and they felt it was just a bad investment. So, yes, we had two companies, and again, nothing became of it. And we, like I said, we were showering them with everything we could possibly give them, you know, free, but it just didn't work out.
Okay. If there's been no interest and there is no current interest, my personal opinion is that it's dangerous and that it should really come down. For the town to put the money into it, looking at the list from the study done in 2019 of things that people in town were interested in possibly putting in there, education-wise, if we were to put a program in there as a town, then we're now funding a program which is going to bump that education budget up quite a bit as well. So that's something to consider. So it's not just the $20 million to get it up to safe and proper use.
Yep.
That's one thing to consider. And everything else that was there, even right down to a recreation center of sorts, we have in town already. So if we built something there and put $20 million into it, we're vacating other buildings in town to now use that building. And then we're going to have the same problem in other places, which may be other historic buildings as well. So I think that's just something to consider, in my opinion, is we should probably be taking it down and making it a nice space that's usable and safe.
Thank you.
There was one other point I wanted to make. When the study was done before, and they said we didn't have to put a fire suppression system in there, that's if you don't gut the building. As soon as you gut that building, you have to bring it up to code. And then you're gonna have to put that fire suppression system in. And that's not in those numbers.
And just clarification's sake, I did reach out to the superintendent of schools, Paul Brenton, and I asked him, would you like the building back? And he did exactly what you're doing right now, that he left. He said, we can't take it back. As a matter of fact, one other point that I would make out of that is, if you look at the school system right now, and I'm not sure the actual numbers, but the capacity right now is nowhere near what it should be. I mean, we built a high school way back in 2005. We had a certain number of people that were supposed to be there, and instead, our numbers in our area dropped off. So there's even less children now. So there's lots more space in every single building. So they wouldn't even need it as a starter right there. So this is your opportunity to speak.
Art Gaggy, Jackson Road. I just have a few comments. The 2005 study that was done on page 15 states that the state did give us permission to demolish the building, even though it's not a historic register. Also, the 2019 study didn't have a study on the demolition of the building at all, so there's nothing to go by there. Back to the 2005 study on the demolition was $600,000, which I find interesting that what you're proposing is less. It's less than $500,000. And the other thing I wanted to make the public aware of is before I'm going to spend that much money on a building like that, we have, especially for education, we have a school, Moosup Elementary, that needs so much work done to it, and we have other schools with heating systems that need to be replaced, which I think we have to go to bond to do that. So I would prefer to put money towards something like that than this.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I have two experimental ideas just to entertain the possibility of saving the building. One is a real on-site live hazardous materials environmental science training school where you can enter a potential brownfield to collect samples and learn how to do it. Or two, perhaps, and I'm just spitballing here, maybe the state fire department wants like a fire training center where they can train how to put out a burning building, but those are the best ideas to save it that I can come up with.
Actually, the fire department can train in the building, they're not for hazardous buildings, don't want.
Oh, there goes that.
Anybody else? Comments, questions, ideas?
Jenny Kipsikevich, Jenkin Road. I appreciate the efforts of everybody pulling together reports, looking at formal reports. I really appreciate the tour. I personally am a history buff. I prefer old buildings. However, this building has hit the point of no return. I feel that your numbers are actually low. Killingly recently looked at doing a similar project with buildings in far better condition at a far higher rate. So for those of you who may be teetering, thinking that this is actually a feasible possibility, I think that we're talking about much bigger numbers than you have projected here. But in my personal opinion, this needs to go.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Just one more question. You had addressed the concern about the light ordinance potentially, but has there been any formal discussion at a municipal level from the town elected officials to say we saved $20 million by demolishing the annex? You know, selling off its salvageable material, whatever we can get out of it. Is there a plan to address the needs of the community with the community center? The hypothetical, you know, Walt Jobe Memorial Center or something like that, George Jobe Memorial Center. Something that allows recreational facilities, a centralized library, anything like that. Like, is there any plans on the books if this does go through and the annex is unfortunately demolished due to the cost of rehabilitation? Is there anything we can do to the money we just saved? Is there discussion to give back to the town in the form of the center that most of us probably want? Most people I speak of, hey, no, that's just out of curiosity. Is that discussion been had yet?
We haven't had that discussion. There hasn't been, if you think about how long this has been,
I understand.
we haven't had a rush of people coming up to the selection or to the town meetings to say, we need this, or we need that. We do have serviceable areas right now for recreation. We have serviceable library. We've talked over the years about doing another library, what it would take. And we actually talked about how much that would be just the other day. Those things are something that if you still as a group want to do, as a town want to do, that you need to get that voice out there to say, these are the needs of the town. This is what we'd like to have in our town. But up to this point, we haven't really had that continued voice. So,
Thank you, Kevin.
thank you.
Appreciate it, sir.
Naomi Smith, Community Ave, Plainfield. The conversation that you just had with Mr. Giacola raised a question for me. Is it preemptive to want to go to a vote to demolition before the town has had an opportunity to come forward to say what the needs may be? Because really, without a clear need-based understanding and without knowing what we clearly would want to put there, how do we know what money may be available or not available? Like, I know the USDA does offer grants for towns that are over 50% below income. I know Griswold just got one recently for their senior center. We have a great senator, we have two great representatives that help fight for that USDA grant. So, that's my question. Should we really do some kind of a field study to find out?
So the questions
Because
are,
it does come up on the Plainfield resident site routinely,
Yep.
what people would like to see.
I would wish one day that the people that post on social media come to the town meetings.
Me too.
Because we learned so much there on the town usage of the social media sites. You learn a lot about your history of your town, you learn about different things as well. People seem to come out and be able to type on a keyboard what they want.
Right.
But they don't come out to a meeting to say, I really need this, we need this, and we want to make sure we do this. I think in the future that's something that we can do.
I just think it's very hard to have our grant writer say, well, what grants are available, because if we don't have a clear idea of what we want to put there, how do we know what grants are available? Especially when you're talking grants are very, very strict on how they're written.
The idea was I asked him to go out and look at the search for everything but to rebuild the building. And that was the first thing.
And was the USDA grants looked into, as far as if it was going to be turned into a community center, whether that building is done or whether it's a new building?
So there are some different things. And additionally, if they were to be forecast for something new there, USDA grants, there's like rural business development grant. It changes every year what their priorities are. There's also USDA community grant, and with that, I mean, maximum this year is $250,000, which is very low. In terms of other potential grants, it changes each year. Covers kind of change what's available and what's out there. There's a Connecticut community grant that it's new, and I mean, that looks massive projects. And kind of what Kevin was alluding to earlier, if we have a comprehensive project that we have in mind, for example, the farm stand, we could use the demolition as a match, and then potentially that's because we're a distressed community, we're only required to do 25% match. So essentially we're looking at turning $450,000 into a $1.6 million project to do something similar to what we're talking about. So there are other grants that I'll continue looking, but yeah, like you're saying, you have a better understanding of what people actually want to need. It kind of allows me to narrow the search.
Thank you. Thank you.
Ruth Bergeron, Starkweather Road, Worcester, and of the Plainfield Historical Society. And I wish to compliment all the people here today for all the good thinking and ideas, and the fact that they've come out and said them. Kyle, very good. Nobody could see it as well. Kevin, you got the numbers, you got things put down, you put them down well. There is so much for and so many different things to be for. But I'd like to start with saying that the building that we're talking about was the first high school in the town of Plainfield, which makes it rather an icon, like a statue of something very symbolic. And the numbers of people that have gone through there and gone out to the wider world and made such a success of themselves as a result of it is really the proof of why we had it. and what it was. I think we should find some way of respect and honor to this building. Granted, it is past its complete salvation, but at the same time, I think we have to give another thought. Several things that several people here have said struck home with me. Preservation being very important, no matter to what little or big degree you can do. I think that needs to be figured in. Future possible uses, I think that would be very helpful in finding things that we have not even thought to look for yet. There is still a little more work to do before we can say there's no choice, no, not anything at all. We are not going to save the building. That would not be reasonable, and you could lock me up if I started talking that way. But by the same token, I think we have to do it justice in one way or another. The comment about saving something about it, I don't know if the facade might at any point be possible to save. That would be a great tribute to it, if it could be. And along that lines, I think we need to do some more thinking, some more looking, perhaps look outside the box, not only for grants, but for other organizations, foundations, other people that might not be aware of us, that this might be a good thing for them to partner or to come into. I think we've got a little bit more work on that aspect to do. But I think the annex is probably saying, well, somebody cares about me tonight, we're talking about it, and we're trying to make a good plan for the future. I really, I must say, demolition is not reversible. So before we actually do, I think we have a few more questions, a few more answers, and hopefully some complete surprises that will be all to everybody in town's best event. I want to introduce somebody that is here tonight too that may be of help to us. Renee Trevette, she's from Preservation, Connecticut. I had talked with her on the phone to find out what they could offer us. And the next thing I know, she's showing up here tonight to our meeting to tell us what possibly her organization could do. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm from Preservation, Connecticut. If you don't know who we are, we're the statewide advocacy group for the preservation and reuse of historic buildings. We have a staff that can assist with a variety of solutions and guidance for difficult projects like this. And certainly we recognize this is a difficult project. You're looking at balancing a historic building that means a lot to a lot of people in the community with your budget. And there aren't any easy, quick answers in terms of money from the preservation community. That said, I would like to say that with your 2019 study, it seems to me that you do have kind of a roadmap there that the community, if the community is interested in preserving the building, you could follow that roadmap. So I know you have been concerned with the price tag for actually, adaptive reuse of the building and what that may cost. But you could start out by seeking a grant from the Historic Restoration Fund of the State Historic Preservation Office, for example. That would help to, it's a matching fund of up to $200,000 that could help you to secure the building while you think about how you might proceed. So that's, a thought there. Our staff is happy to come and talk and facilitate any planning meetings that you might want to have. People have talked about throwing around ideas about what you might do with the building. That's something we're happy to be involved in if you think that we can be helpful. And from a personal perspective, from seeing a lot of historic buildings, I know those pictures are ugly. But old buildings were really well built. And if you can look beyond the ugliness, and I am not a building inspector, but if you can look beyond the ugliness, I think that there is maybe something to work with there. And I would encourage, I think someone else was, talking about just different ideas. There are many ways that you could preserve and reuse this building. And again, our staff would be happy to help facilitate conversations about that, if you would like.
Thank you. Anybody else?
All right, I'll go first this time. Yeah, your points are well taken, and I know a lot of people will occasionally be brought in from time to time to revisit this problem, but just to get you up to speed, we've had this exact same conversation over the course of, I think this problem is approaching drinking age at this point. And it's pretty, and I know, I mean, it is, at a certain point I would say, yeah, maybe 10 years ago we'll look past the ugliness, but we've rethought and rehashed, and there's only so many things grants can do, and I don't know, I mean, the thing that makes me concerned is, you might be familiar with Intero, which is over there, and, we had the same similar discussions, if we could, it could be this, it could be that, and then suddenly an arsonist made our mind up as to what it would be, and there was a big fire, there were, each truck dumped something like 1.5 million gallons of flame retardant chemicals on it. Not that the annex is that big, but I don't want to be that guy that's a proponent for more wait and see, but suddenly one time there's a fire, and God forbid a firefighter got injured, or someone broke in and, I mean, not that that's the right thing for them to do, but it does reach that point.
I certainly understand these concerns. I can share them. I can understand. I think one other thing that I'd like to say is that things do change, and I know that you've said that people have looked at it, developers have looked at it, and nothing came through. But the economy and what people are interested in is constantly changing. I know it seems like a difficult economy right now, but we do see in preservation people are still looking at preserving and reusing and adapting historic buildings despite the economy. So, I understand. I'm just saying you could consider as a community, if one consideration might be to keep working with that 2019 report and do the mothballing using the matching grant to give you a little more time maybe to see in another couple of years what the climate looks like. And maybe there's a developer who would be interested. There's been a lot of rehabs of schools or apartments for municipal offices and apartments. But it's up to the community. But
just to quickly follow up, I agree with you. Demolition, you can't take that back. But the other thing you can't take back is not making a decision today, which it's something that we did 10 years ago, and we went, no worries, that's a problem for future us. Pretty much.
Adrian.
So a couple things. So you mentioned that you're aware that there are comments on Facebook, but about what people would like to have in town. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, I can't quite hear you.
I got the impression you're aware that there are community chats on Facebook for Plainfield where people will express their opinions there. Do you guys actively draw that data and use that? Because that is proxy information.
I just browsed it.
Okay, because that's information you can just take and sum pretty easily. I don't know who's in charge of that, but you don't have to create a survey. You could just look at the Facebook chats and the Plainfield pages and do a quick analysis. How many people said they want to see something in the annex? Disregard the other stuff. How many people said they want to see the annex go? And you'll have some summary data without doing any actual real work on your part as far as creating a new survey. Just throwing that out there if you'd like to actually pay it to what people want without doing fresh or more research. Because I think that's important. The town has a duty not just to keep the mill rate low, which is great, but also to ensure that we have as much quality of life as we can get for our own. So quality of life is something that's not just objective, it's subjective. So, this facility has an objective value in the market, right? That's something that's pretty cool.
And I like the idea. The only thing I would say to that is that when we advertise for a meeting, we usually try to do as many ways to advertise as possible and try to do so like a referendum. You put it out onto social media, you put it on the town Facebook page, website, you put it up onto Nixle, you put signs out there, you put it up onto the legal ads. You do everything you can to get the word out there, and still sometimes you get 15 or 20 people. But if I narrow down that survey and just leave it onto a social media site, then only the people that use that social media site are going to be the ones to answer you. So, yep. But it's an idea.
But out of 15,000 residents, Mr. Cunningham, 11,000 are on one site.
And of those, we know that they're, just to go back and forth with that, I don't know every single person that has a proper ID. We don't know if they're really,
Well, what I was saying was, is we're not talking like a survey, you're talking extracting.
Yeah, you can just pull the information from, it's just Facebook analytics.
Yep.
You don't use anybody else.
Even just running a simple poll of, in a perfect world, would you say the annex could be a viable enough pool of information, at least just at first glance? Socially, the town social media poll of, if you see this, please vote or something, where say 150 people vote, split down the board, you have a better perspective of, town members who are easily verifiable through voting records or tax data. If you are curious if they're, troll accounts put out by like Russian bots or whatever, circumvent or anything. I digress. But social media is, in 2022, you cannot ignore that it is a viable option, as Adrian said, to pull data from, even just if it's worth looking into further. If I put a poll on my Facebook right now, does Plainfield need another Dollar General, you bet your butt that we're going to get some huge exchanges in there. Whether or not that's, Uncle Phil and Uncle Larry arguing with each other, or an actual, proper discussion, it's still a source of information of people who are not attending these meetings, and for whichever reason, whether it be COVID lockdown, work schedules, or just childcare. Are these meetings being Zoomed right now, or online, or are they being shared?
No.
By, they are, okay, I wasn't sure.
Ruth.
Listening to everyone here has been very educational, amongst other things. And I just had a thought come to me. As we go forth in planning what we're doing it all, how about a time frame? How about a deadline as to when certain decisions will have been made and move on? It's true, from 2005 to 2019 and onward. I think without that, we're just going to go back in the circle. But there's a lot of things that, in the meanwhile, should be tended to. I thought.
Thank you.
Robert Smith, Plainfield. Now, okay, so Kinley's doing something, Griswold's doing something, Putnam's doing something, Brown's doing something. Where's Plainfield? We do nothing. You don't know. You got the same old wrecks here, there, and everywhere. Now, when it comes to the annex, what are the bare bones? What is the cost and what are we going to get for our money compared to kicking the can down the road, spending 30, 40, 50 million for something we want to bad for our community? So a community center for the people who sit in. This was a community center. It does have a swimming pool. We do have a bar. We do have this. There's things we can do here. We can maybe move the town hall there. Let's get a cost, see what it does, see where the bones are. Let's move ahead. Like I said, other towns are doing stuff. We do nothing. We just got the same old stuff, same old town, more stuff just falling around. Let's do the cost. You can do new, better, cheaper. Let's do new, cheaper, better. Let's do something. Let's just not stay a dying town all the time. Dollar stores going up. That's all we got. That's us. Other towns are doing, we're not. Let's do something. Let's make a change. Let's do something for all of us. That's all I got to say.
Rick Martell, Black Hill. A few things. I've been in the building quite a few times. I'm the building official, so I researched it a lot, not just a little bit. But the few things that a lot of people don't understand, this building was never kept up historically. It has a roof on it that wasn't the original roof. All new windows are aluminum, they're not wood. So there's so many things that are not historic in this building. And you're saying, let's keep it a historic building. It's not a historic building anymore. It was changed, the townspeople changed it. This town changed it. No, and everybody agreed with it at the time. Let's spend some money, we'll put new windows, we'll save some energy. They put aluminum windows in it. I worked in a lot of historic buildings, and everything I did in historic buildings was woodworking. And nothing's there anymore. So there's no really significance other than the facade on the outside, the brick facade. And now that's deteriorating. I've been in there, the inside parts are, now the rebar showing, the concrete's on the floor. This is crumbling. So I was on the building committee for the new high school. And all the way to the last 2 weeks before that building was going to go down, that was going down. I had all the permits, everything was going down. I'm so disappointed that it didn't get taken down then, because now it's actually a plural. I mean, it's disgusting. You go by there and there's graffiti on the walls, broken windows, every level. We put plywood on the bottom just to stop people from going in, make it safe. That's the reason we did it. We didn't do it for any other reason. It was a safety factor. And that's what we did. Through the selectmen and the workers of the town, we got to protect that building from people getting hurt. If anybody was going in here now, you can see how it's all falling down. Believe me, I worked in a lot of places, and I love historic, but we let it go too long. And I know somebody made a comment, why didn't we patch the hole in the roof? Because the hole was big enough that we didn't know how far out the rock was. So if somebody would have went up there to try to patch that roof, they would have been hurt. And to get a crane to bring somebody up there to patch the roof that way was too expensive. So that's where we're at. So I don't know what to say other than what really is seen at this point. Thank you.
If I may,
Yeah.
the building still is sort of the roof, even though the roof, I'm just throwing this
Yeah,
out
go
there
ahead.
for you, that even though the windows may have been replaced and aren't the original,
Yeah.
but you have an architecturally designed building that represents.
We have a brick building.
a-
I don't disagree.
And it represents a construction type and a design.
I don't disagree.
For the 1920s.
Yeah.
With
But-
that wonderful, I absolutely adore the terracotta fireproofing. It's not really structural, it's fireproofing. It's part of the.
It's structural.
Fr-
It's
fr-
holding up the floors.
No, it holds up the
I'll
floors.
have to show you the
Yeah,
design.
because actually, they're all the floors in there are cement floors, and they have structural cement beams. And when we went in there, within the last 3 weeks, we've been going there a lot to make sure we had the proper pictures and everything, is that when you look up at the structural concrete, it's just like a parking garage. You know how you see them, you go in a parking garage and you see these things go up and down like that? Well, it's built quite similar to that.
Yeah.
But now what's happening is that all the rebar is coming through those points. So now, I don't think there's a way to patch that type of structural integrity anymore. I think we let it go just too long. We really did.
What agency are you with again, ma'am?
Excuse me? Oh, my name is Renee Claire. I'm with Preservation of Connecticut. So,
Maybe your agency would like to buy it, or take it for a look. No, we'd love to give it to you. If you're so confident and you're so think it's worth investing in, we'll give it to you. You got a year, go find somebody.
I know,
And-
as I said, I
Ma'am,
understand.
this
it's very
thing
difficult.
needs to come down. And this town is not going to pay $13 million to rebuild that building.
And that's your decision as a community. I
Well,
understand.
then listen, and I thought tonight after public hearing would give somebody some direction to take it to people with the facts and let them give the selectmen some direction, what they want to do.
And
And guess what? If they want to spend $13 million, they win, we lose it, okay. But it's the worst investment you're ever going to make in this town. We have built new school, we've built everything. That's all I've done is pay bond payments for 30 years. And the best side of this whole thing, Mr. Selectman, is your debt service is getting down to the point, I think you got maybe 4 payments left on the high school. we paid some significant money. We had to sacrifice everything else, but we built these schools for these kids. We built an industrial park and recreation centers and all this other stuff. So I don't agree with the gentleman back there that tell me the county ain't doing nothing. I think you're doing pretty good right now. I mean, you got some pretty good things going on here, and that's good. You know, we want to go forward. You got to keep looking forward. And that building is looking backwards. We're not doing anything with that building. It's backwards. $13 million can do a lot of things in this town.
I just wanted to add on to that would be for the people to understand a bigger picture of what's going on. The town of Plainfield also has some issues with its heating systems in the school system. And that was going to go out to bond. So we have to figure out how we're going to be able to pay for all of these different items. So it's not just, we have an annex, can we save it? And how much does it cost to save it? The other part of the picture is, what are the other things that are happening at the same time? So for that bigger picture, we might want to give more information, but definitely the Board of Selectmen will probably have to come up with a timeline if we're going to have another discussional item on this or not, whether it goes out to bonding, out to a referendum. There's more has to be done. So first of all, I want to say that I appreciate everybody's comments, as Ruth was saying. You've been very respectful. We've been open-minded in thinking about different things we can do or can't do, and appreciate the input from everybody. So it's been very educational, I think, for everyone here to see some of the pictures that we've seen, to understand where the numbers are, to understand what's up in front of you. We've been about 90 minutes. I'm going to give a few more minutes and we'll finish up.
I got to reiterate this again. We've had this conversation for some years now, so I would suggest this. This is not an information problem. This is a decision-making problem. So I would suggest that the Board of Selectmen say, all right, we're going to have a referendum where, you know, if nobody comes up with a plan that's viable for plant, land, equipment, rec center, amusement park, whatever our choice may be, that the annex will be demolished by a time certain. So what that will do, I think, is create some urgency for people to go beyond the Facebook post and say, you know what, I'm actually gonna pick up the phone. I'm gonna do some research. I'm gonna help all the people who think grants are the answer or whatever, and we're gonna solve the problem. Otherwise, unless somebody says we must decide to knock it down by a date certain, we're gonna be back here in another year or two. And so to that note, I would suggest that that is what we want to do. All we need to do is take the video from this meeting and sit in the same room a year later and watch the video and go home, and that way we can feel good about ourselves. That's pretty much where we are.
Okay. We have a couple more. How about if we go, you got skipped last time, so.
Just a question. Where does grant money come from? I would like an answer. Where does it come from? If you're not taking it out of Plainfield's pocket, you're taking it out of some government, and you're paying for it anyway. It's coming from the people, unless you've got some private investing going on. Grants are not free.
Thank you. I'm running out of paper, so.
I'll be short. Oh, I am short. Hi, I'm Linda Fedor. I live at 45 Main Street, Central Village. And I'm new to town. I didn't go to the high school. I didn't have kids in the high school. But I do see that it's a wreck of a building. I think we're very emotional about something that should be very fiscally responsible. I mean, everybody wants something done with their building, but nobody wants to see their property taxes go up. I really disqualify, to a large degree, your Facebook warriors. I'm retired and I'm on Facebook a lot. And I see the complaints and I see the smart comments and the smarmy stuff. And if I can speak for Madeline also, we're always suggesting to come to the meeting, to get involved, register to vote. Has your phone been ringing off the hook with all the people that I've told to call you? No. You know, it's easy. The door's open. It was 50 degrees today. I mean, there's no reason to not come out tonight if you feel strongly about it. I think we're getting ahead of ourselves by trying to figure out. The education system has plenty of room. They don't need another building. The high school offers the trade portion of their education. We don't need that. We have a rec center. You know, I'm always promoting our pool downstairs that nobody uses. And I really don't think, if citizens aren't dropping their kids off at the pool, I really don't think they're going to drop them off at the community center. There's too many things that the kids are already doing, and they're not indoors doing it. You know, they're playing soccer, well, they're playing basketball indoors, but you know what I mean? They're signed up for football, they're signed up for baseball, they're traveling in their cars. Days of Community Center was when I was in school in the 60s. You know, I just don't think that that's a thing that's viably gonna, I have yet to hear somebody really suggest something that's gonna be income producing. I'd certainly be for that. I mean, if we have to spend $15 million and then we can realize a $15 million return on our investment, but I don't hear that. And I think it comes down to, you know, yes or no, knock it down or have the mill rate go up a point. So, thank you.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman. You get two issues, right? The hearing tonight is about ideas and to try to give the Board of Selectmen some direction how to bring this to the people. After that, all these other things that people talked about, that I agree with you. They got to come to you and say, hey, the town needs this or needs that, and you know, build a consensus. It's like building a high school. It's like building an elementary school. Folks have got to come to you, okay? But I think tonight you heard, you didn't hear the whole town, but you got an idea about what you should be able to make a point to be able to take this somewhere and make a decision. Because guess what? If it doesn't go, if it does go, it's either going to sit there and town people never pass the $13 million. I don't give them $10 million. They're not going to give you the money to take that building and redo it with no cause, with nothing more than the idea that I don't know, 50 years of kids went through there, maybe. You know what I'm saying, Kevin? So you know, you're on the right path. You got to bring this forward, let people make a decision. And then, if people got ideas about projects, good for us. We'll all see if we can't get together and do something nice, you know?
I'll be really quick, and I hope this makes you feel better about this. You did the right thing by having this meeting, but one thing I would say, and I think everybody in the room will agree with it, is that if somebody isn't here at this point, you know, to voice their opinions or present whatever viable plan exists out there, they're not going to do it. And quite frankly, you can say, I want to get the notice out and all this and that. So, I mean, they've decided to pretty much let the people in this room decide for them, and I'm fine with that.
Because you got to spend money, you got to get approval. Yep. That's the issue.
Any final comments?
Wally Sweener, Chairman of the Plainfield Conservation Commission. All these comments, pro and con, very good. I'm glad everybody made it out here. I'll be quick. There's been surveys done for different projects in the town. Did we ever get a survey out for this? Like
Through the like
we did for the open space project, you know, an open survey to the townspeople.
Like yours?
Yes.
And how many did you get back?
We had over 117 responses. So my question is, could we, you know, get at least one final ditch effort to get more information with the survey?
Again, the Board of Selectmen would have to talk about doing that. And I think we might be discussing it either the next meeting or the meeting after.
Okay. All right, that was my question, but thank you.
All right. So a little bit past 8 o'clock. I do want to say thank you again to everybody that came out, shared their comments and concerns, ideas. Again, very respectful, and I want to say thank you to everybody for that. Well done. So we will probably be talking about this one more time with the Board of Selectmen and see where we're going to go next. And again, thank you all for coming out and sharing your ideas and comments.